don't study in college what you're actually passionate about.
Hmm.
I think you should study something that is a little bit more practical
Hmm.
and still work and educate yourself on whatever you're passionate about. My dad got into severe debt, actually, got in a lot of credit card debt, over a quarter of a million, which is a lot of money.
Wow. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell the people who you are.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. First and foremost, thanks, Caleb. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, my name is Joseph Taveras. I'm also known as Joe Money because I'm pretty serious about my money.
Yeah.
And that's a nickname that people have given me over the years, right?
Yeah.
I am one of the co-founders of a venture, which is actually the shirt that I'm wearing right now. We're an outdoor activewear apparel brand that donates 10% of its proceeds to nonprofits to help clean trails and the ocean and whatnot. I'm also currently working on a second venture called Cosmo Collective. I'll get into that later down the road.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I do work a full-time job, which I think might surprise a little bit of people, but we can get into that later down the road as well.
Right, right. That's good. Thanks for sharing that. So we're gonna start getting a little bit deeper. Obviously, that was just kind of like a snippet of who you really are. You know, I know you got more to tell.
Yes,
Let's
yes.
start. Let's start from your hometown. Tell us a little bit about where you were born and maybe what you think about where you were born. Okay, and maybe tie it
Yeah,
into your story a little bit.
yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So, I was actually born in Brooklyn, New York, but after I had turned one, my parents decided to relocate to South Florida,
Mhm.
specifically within the Fort Lauderdale, Florida region.
Right.
So I grew up in a smaller city over there, um, in that region, and honestly, I loved it. There was a lot of valuable life lessons that I learned from living here. If you're not familiar with South Florida, it's a very upscale, more flashy type of lifestyle,
Right.
or at least a lot of people portray that.
Yeah.
Not even if they don't necessarily have it.
Mhm.
And I learned a lot. I got connected with a lot of influential people, and yeah, I met amazing people, and I also met pretty not so amazing people, and
Right.
got exposed to a lot of not so amazing experiences. But yeah,
Yeah. 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 That's good. I mean, it's always interesting when someone gets to move around at a young age. I feel like people always remember like the move. Like I know like my wife, like they moved from like LA to like Riverside when they were young.
yeah,
It's always interesting to like look into that and maybe ask some questions as to why your parents decided to make that move and what kinds of insights can you draw from that. So that's good. Now, when it comes to your childhood and your upbringing, do you want to like let us in as much as you're comfortable with as
yeah.
to what maybe the financial picture looked like back then and maybe how that has impacted you today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a little bit of context. Both of my parents immigrated from the Dominican Republic. My mother, when she was around the age of 12 or 10 to 12, and then my dad, when he was 18, he moved to New York. That's kind of where they met, and they got married and whatnot. When
Mhm.
my dad and my mom lived in New York, they were actually doing pretty well financially, because even though my dad had became a citizen in the United States and didn't have a degree,
Mhm.
he had a really amazing IT job that he got offered to do. So they were living in an apartment. They were living financially free, no debt, no nothing, which is very rare, I would
Right.
say, for immigrants. And when they moved to Florida, things had changed. It's not New York. It's not the city of opportunities. It's
Right.
and things. My dad needed to work more. So luckily, my parents had some savings from when they were in New York, so they were able to buy a home. Unfortunately, it wasn't in the best area, so we grew up poor,
Mhm.
um, despite owning a home. And
Yeah.
I would say that's probably like the saving grace within our family, that property.
Mhm.
Um, and my dad worked two jobs. I can tell you with full confidence, I
Mhm.
barely saw my dad from the age of one to, well on to I think seven. And then when I turned around seven, things started changing a little bit for my family.
Mhm.
Um, Also a little bit of context. It was a 2 bedroom, one bath house,
Um,
right next to the hood. So there's definitely some characters there. And
mhm.
then, my brother and I had shared the same room. My brother 4 years older than me. We, my dad got into severe debt. Actually, got in a lot of credit card debt, over $250,000, which is a lot of money.
Wow.
Yeah, he didn't understand credit,
Mhm.
and most immigrants don't, right? It's not something
Mhm.
that's taught even in formal education.
Right.
So, and it was newer for that generation.
Mhm.
So that was kind of the situation. So I grew up only ever knowing debt, only ever knowing lack. When I was 7, my dad, he got offered. He had a really strong work ethic,
Mhm.
and even though he worked multiple jobs, at one of his jobs they were actually closing down the facility. It was going out of business. But there
Right.
was an admin lady that he had become friends with,
Mhm.
and she was moving to a new company, and she reached out to him and said, "Hey, you're a really good worker. I think you are worth more than just being a guy who drives trucks and delivers." It was like a UPS type of company. I don't
Mhm.
remember the name of it, but she was like, "I think you're worth more than
Mhm.
just packaging boxes and shipping them to the facilities or the
Mhm.
whatever." So he said, "But I don't have any college experience." He's like, his English wasn't always the best, even though he spoke English
Mhm.
fairly fluently. And he interviewed for the job and he got it. And that's when we started to see a little bit of a increase in money.
Mhm.
We were able to move out of that old house. We sold it for a little bit of a profit, not too much. Well, profit in that regard doesn't change the debt situation.
Right. Right.
uh,
Right.
and
Right.
then we moved to a better neighborhood when I was 8.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, it was really interesting because uh, we moved to a lower middle class neighborhood,
Mhm.
which is actually the house that my mom still owns to this day.
Uh-huh.
And you know, uh, we weren't too far from where we used to live, but we were far enough in a
Mhm.
way
Mhm.
that at least the neighborhood wasn't filled with the same uh, unique characters that
Right.
you would
Right.
have in the other neighborhood I lived in. And but yeah, the problem was we moved to a nicer neighborhood
Mhm.
so we could go to nicer schools.
Yeah.
But with my dad's debt, with the higher cost of living now, because being in a more affluent, I say affluent, but higher cost area versus the
Right.
hood,
Right.
um, it didn't really change much. It still grew with lack. And yeah, did that answer your question about my
Yes,
upbringing so
yes,
far?
yes, yes. No, that paints a really good picture right there for me.
Yeah,
So let's dissect it a little bit. One of
sure.
one of the recurring things that you said was the debt,
Mhm.
and how maybe that had to do with a lack of education and all that stuff. But something that really stood out to me and is how I feel like your parents, or in this case your dad's debt, regardless of how that built up, in a way like impacted the family,
Yep.
right? And it kind of impacted you as the child. And it just makes me wonder, like, what's your current relationship with the idea of debt in general, based on what you've seen from your dad, and
Yeah.
I mean, this happened way back when, but it still sticks to you. So, yeah, how does that impact you today?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So initially, when I first got my first job
Mhm.
at 16, I literally got a job on my birth, like hired before my birthday.
Yeah.
And then I started exactly on my birthday. That's how hungry I was to work,
Wow.
because we had no money. So I
Yeah.
knew the only way I could get money and spend stuff and hang out with friends was,
Hmm.
I worked. But
Hmm.
to answer your question, so when I was 16, I knew about my parents' debt situation, my family's financial situation, because I lived in it my whole life.
Hmm.
And I came to the conclusion debt is wicked, it's evil. It needs to be completely, you never should get debt for any reason.
Hmm.
Of course, soon after that, I got into entrepreneurship. I
Yeah.
started meeting affluent businessmen. in
Mm-hmm.
different fields and different industries.
Mm-hmm.
And I started learning about the difference between bad debt and good debt.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so my relationship currently is, if it's bad debt, no debt, please. If
Right.
it's good debt, and I could dissect that in a bit if you want, then under certain circumstances, if analyzed properly and having multiple people's opinions in it, you
Mm-hmm.
could go through that route.
Hmm. Okay. So that I don't get too distracted, I want to focus on what you just said with the good debt, bad debt. Because let's say
Yeah.
someone is listening and they don't really know how to define that. Like, is a credit card, good debt, depending on what you're trying to use it for, So how would you define that, at least from your own perspective, the difference between good debt and bad debt?
Yeah. So, although some of my experiences have involved credit cards,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to encourage people in saying that credit cards are good debt, no
Mm-hmm.
matter their circumstance, until you meet certain criteria, right? Like until you get to a certain education. So if you're brand new, credit cards are never good debt, just in general.
Yeah.
I would avoid them, and there's a reason why. So a lot of people fall into this trap, and this is actually what happened to my dad
Mm-hmm.
back in the day. Is you get like 12 to 15 months, sometimes even 18 of 0% interest on a new credit card,
Mm-hmm.
or even a balance transfer, right? So a lot of people say, well, that's free money because you're just paying back 0%.
Right.
You're not paying back extra. Unfortunately, if you keep reading, if you don't pay it all off consistently, or all off within that time frame of 0%, then
Right.
it shoots up to anywhere from 16.5, which you need a really good credit score to get that percentage,
Right.
to a 27, 28%, 29% APR.
Wow.
Um, so that'll put you in crippling debt. Just put it in perspective. If you have, I'm just going to use this because it's easy. So 29% of $1,000,
Mhm.
that's roughly $290,
Right.
right? So
Right.
that's $290 in just interest that you're paying every single month,
Right. Right.
or sorry, every single year,
Every
you
year.
know?
Yeah.
So that can be significant,
Yeah.
especially if you're not paying the enough payment. So anyways, that's bad debt.
Yeah.
Another piece of bad debt is, I would say personally, for most people, an auto loan can be a bad debt.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll explain in other cases later when it's
Mhm.
not, but yeah, that's a bad debt. Consumer debt, if you're just using debt, using credit cards, using money that isn't yours to
Mhm.
buy clothes or
Mhm.
uh, anything that isn't an asset, that doesn't produce income for you,
Mhm.
most of the time that's bad debt.
That's bad debt.
Good debt would be, a mortgage, but
Mhm.
not all mortgages are created equal. you
Mhm.
know a
Yeah.
mortgage that has a low enough interest rate for
Right.
your credit score, that a mortgage for a property that doesn't make you house poor,
Right.
you know
Right.
which I'm not going to go too deep into that.
Yeah.
uh, Also, under certain circumstances, uh, if you were to get I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I'm familiar. I have a lot of people within my network that do this.
Right.
But if you were to buy a car, right?
Mhm.
Let's just say a higher up car, like an exotic car, right? So a
Yeah.
Ferrari, Lamborghini, think something like that. But you bought it second. You didn't buy it from the dealership. You
Mhm.
bought it on the secondary market, which means you
Mhm.
bought it from another person to person.
Mhm.
If you can get a credit union loan, auto loan for that car, more
Mhm.
often than not, you can buy that. If you're wise, if you're educated, you'll buy it for a lower price than what's the current value of that car.
Mhm.
You'll be able to drive it,
Mhm.
also potentially put it on something like Turo, depending on your city, if that's what you want to do,
Right.
or use it as a business vehicle, depending on your industry.
Mhm.
And then you could end up selling it within 8 to 12 to 24 months for a profit. And so
Hmm.
you pay off the loan completely. But I don't recommend that for most people. That's
Right.
that's not even where I'm at currently. So
Right.
it's a higher degree.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. I think one of the things that I heard you say is just this idea of like not getting into it if you don't have the almost like the foundation, the base. because I
Yeah.
do know that a lot of wealthy people like use debt to make more money. Like, but it's like it's something that they've been doing for a while. They know what they're doing. They know how it works.
Hmm.
So when people don't really know how that works and they just like keep racking up all these things without even maybe having a clear goal in mind, then they or clear plan in mind, then they just dig themselves in a hole. So
Yes.
you are right in the sense that like, and you did say this at the very beginning. It's like if you are a newbie, like you just advise to kind of like stay away from it until you really, really gather the education and maybe even work with a mentor, someone who maybe
Mm.
knows how it goes and they can guide you. So that's good. I mean, I have a love-hate relationship when it comes to like that. I listen to guys like Dave Ramsey, Anthony O'Neill. I listen to those guys. I won't say like I'm a faithful disciple. I never really like follow someone just 100%. I'm always like
Right.
I just pick like different nuggets of what they're saying, and I feel like when it comes to that, like I kind of like see it the same way you do. Like it's like a good debt versus bad debt. But right now, I don't think I'm at the place where I'm like brave enough to go take out like a loan or whatever to pursue a business because I don't think um,
Mm.
I'm quite ready for that, and I don't want to lose that and then have to pay a whole bunch of money back. So I'm still like
Yes.
in that process of like gathering the knowledge and education. I think that's probably where a lot of people will be who are watching this. So if you're watching this and you don't have the knowledge, don't do it. Don't go
Yeah.
like get that loan and then not know what you're doing with it. Yeah.
No, no, and you touched on something that I forgot to also mention that could be good debt depending on
Yeah.
the circumstance.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more high level, a little bit more intermediate, advanced. But if
Mm-hmm.
you can get a business loan, like you
Right.
mentioned,
Right.
the thing about business loans is it's a little bit more. You have to have experience,
Mm-hmm.
mostly because in order to get it, you usually have to provide a plan or have a business that has already been generating income. So that's why I didn't bring it up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Okay, we got to keep trucking forward
Let's do
here.
it. Let's do it.
I wanted to ask you, so far in your life,
Mhm.
I don't know if you're okay with sharing how old you are to the audience.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
26 years old. For those who don't know.
Wow, look at that. Okay, so far in your 26 years of life, what would you say have been your, or what would you say is your highest moment in life and your lowest moment in life so far? Because I think that defines us in great ways. So what are yours? Highest
Yeah,
moment, lowest moment.
yeah, that's good. I'm going to start with the low and then end with the high, just
Mhm,
because. So, my lowest moment was I had just gotten back from studying abroad in Paris, France.
mhm,
I had $25 to my name. I was living out of a suitcase, and I was actually couch surfing at a friend's really ghetto green shack in the hood.
wow.
Uh, yeah, so that was one of my lowest moments.
How old were
Be,
you? 20 to
I think I
20.
was 20. I think I was 20.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough because
Yeah,
you're by yourself doing this. Wow.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
tough.
I had been told by my friend I could crash there for free,
Hmm.
and I'm still friends with this guy to this day, and I really appreciate the time that he did give me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was one of my lowest moments because I felt hopeless. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, I had been pursuing entrepreneurship since I was 17, and
Hmm.
I just felt like, wow, where's all my effort gone?
Right. Right.
I
Right.
didn't feel like anything had panned out, and I had no source of income.
Hmm.
And my friend asked me, hey, like I would stay there for like I already was there for like a month, and he's
Hmm.
like, hey man, you've been here for like a month. I know you're not doing great financially, but like, is there any way you can give me like $120 at least for rent this month? Mind you, this is like a one bedroom
Yeah.
shack where there was already him and one other roommate living there,
Oh
and
gosh.
I was sleeping on their couch,
Oh
and so
man.
I'm the type of person that
Yeah.
I grew up with a man of principle, a father of principle, and
Hmm.
so I didn't complain and say, hey man, I can't afford. I said, I got you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't have the money, but I said, I got you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the lowest moment.
Wow.
Um, yeah. And then the highest moment for me
Mm.
so far has been actually launching my company, Adventure.
Yeah.
We launched in the beginning of 2020. Um, and a little bit of context here. One might argue and say this might have been the lowest moment, but it's not. Uh, well, yeah. But my father passed away at the end of December of 2019.
Yeah.
And so right after that, I had this trip pre-planned, right? In 2020. And
Yeah.
the trip was in January. This is right after, at the end of January. This is right after I buried my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and took care of all his affairs. And, essentially, I went on this trip to Japan and Taiwan, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is like immediately after
Yeah.
finishing all that stuff,
Yeah.
immediately after grieving, still in grieving process at that time. And then right after I get back, I launched my company with my two other business partners. You know,
Wow.
as weird as this sounds, it was
Yeah.
one of the highest points in my life so far,
Mm-hmm.
um, because like I had never seen the success in my previous business ventures that I've been seeing in this company. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so that's what it was.
Wow. Wow. Hey, first of all, like I'm sorry for, the loss of your dad. I know it was 3 years
Much appreciated.
ago, but hey, my mom passed away 2 years ago. So I'm like,
Mm,
even if time passes by, it's like, hey, it still pops up on your mind.
absolutely.
It still pops up every now and then. So it's like, I understand, man. I understand. And those kinds of experiences do shape you also. And, sometimes they motivate you in great ways. It just depends on how you want to relate with that experience.
Mhm.
And one thing and like you said, maybe not everyone in the audience might agree with this, but I think your dad will honestly be proud of you. Like, because
Absolutely.
based on what you've told me about his story, an immigrant with an like just an extraordinary like work ethic.
Mhm.
Like I know he'll be proud of you. You didn't just like stay in that hole for a long time. You actually like just sprung forward into creating a whole business that is thriving today. So
Yep.
definitely, if you're part of the audience watching this right now, check out our venture. Okay, I'm gonna put the link in the notes in the description and see what they're doing out there. And I can see the shirt that you're rocking right now.
Yes.
I
This is a
like
sample. This is a sample.
yeah, yeah. I like the way the letters are coming together there. So that's
Thank
nice.
you.
I know Adventure has a big like Instagram presence.
Mhm.
So definitely go check it out. Definitely go check it out. I know I've been on there a few times to look at it and I'm like just admiring the things that you guys are doing there. So keep it
Thank you.
up.
Appreciate that.
What are your biggest goals right now?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, one of my biggest goals is, are you speaking on a personal level or just on
Yeah.
a business level as well?
Yeah, personal level. I mean, personal can also, it could become financial. Like some people, like their financial goals are what they hold the dearest. So wherever yours takes you, just personally, what are your biggest goals? Is it a financial goal? Is it a, spiritual goal? Whatever it is. But what are your biggest goals right now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a
Yeah.
great question. So, thank you. Yeah, so my biggest goals are summed up into what makes up or me as a man.
Hmm.
So so I have financial goals, spiritual goals, physical goals, so health goals, and
Yeah,
then emotional goals,
that's good.
mindset goals.
Yeah.
So my overall goal when it comes to finances is I want to be in the six figure marks. So
Hmm.
six figures, roughly 10K a month,
Hmm.
in my own personal income. Outside of financial, I also want to focus on my health. So one of the areas that I'm trying to get to is I'm actually trying to lose some of the stubborn belly fat that I put on over the years of eating
Yeah.
like garbage and
Yeah.
not working out consistently enough.
Yeah.
So to kind of sum that up, I'm actually currently on a fitness and nutrition program,
Yeah.
which for me is that's a whole nother conversation. I'm not gonna. I'll go down a tangent if I keep talking about it, but uh, so I'm gonna save it. And then spiritual goals.
Yeah.
This is actually one that's near and dear to my heart. I am a man who believes in God, who specifically
Mm-hmm.
believes in Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's reading the Bible, one chapter of the Bible every night before I go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's also going to church weekly,
Mm-hmm.
consistently, and just growing in my relationship with God, you
Mm-hmm.
know, through many different spiritual practices.
Mm-hmm.
And then my emotional goal, I would say
Right.
this is um, to make sure that I'm constantly doing like check-ins with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I feel anxious, whenever I feel stressed, whenever I run into a problem that needs to be solved, I want to be able to take a step back,
Mm-hmm.
uh, speak out whatever is on my mind,
Mm-hmm.
let it release it, let it go,
Mm-hmm.
and then move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. I mean, in reality, uh, life has like different branches, and we have to find like a way to balance everything, right? If you're ever really gonna go anywhere. So I like how you broke it down. Financial goals, physical goals, which are actually extremely important. And I see what you're doing out there, and I see your workout videos and things like that on Instagram. That's inspiring. It's good for people to know that it's not just about chasing money.
Yep.
If you're not healthy, then you can't chase the money that you want. So
Yep. Oh
yeah.
man.
And you got the emotional goals, because hey, being an entrepreneur, being in this space that you're in, like it can like take a toll on you
Yes.
emotionally. So if you're not checking in on yourself, you can just like ruin yourself basically and get lost,
Absolutely.
so, and the spiritual goal also, like that's very important, and I know not a lot of people might agree with it or believe in it, but those who walk with God know like what's in it and why that's really important. And
Yeah.
hey, this is not a church or a sermon, so you're just gonna have to experience it for yourself if you want to see what it's about. So thanks for telling us that. So I want to do this little complete the sentence game, which kind of
Great.
like lets us into your mind a little bit more. And don't worry, we're gonna get more into the entrepreneurial space even deeper here soon. And this will lead us right into that. So complete the sentence right here. Something that inspires me is blank.
Leveling up my mindset.
All right. Okay. I am the most proud of blank.
Launching a successful clothing brand.
All right. I am the happiest when blank.
I'm learning something new that furthers my education.
That's good. That's good. um, During my free time, I blank.
Ooh, that's a tough one, man. Can I give two answers for this?
Oh, sure.
Okay, it's like a hybrid. During
Okay.
my free time, I'm either working out, right?
Okay.
No, actually, I lied. I lied. I take
Okay.
it back.
I'm like,
During my
wait,
free time,
you work out during your free time?
during my
Really?
free time, I either adventure, so I either like
Yeah.
go on a hike or bike or something like that,
Yeah.
or I kind of like do just my own personal development, self education type stuff.
Right, right, right. That's good. That's good. Okay, last one here. During my time in college,
Mm.
I loved blank.
Ooh, I loved meeting up with people.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's good. Yeah, college does do that. It's good, and that actually leads us into this next question here.
All right.
What are your thoughts on college?
Yeah.
Should everyone go to college? Was it worth it for you, as an entrepreneur right now? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so obviously we're giving a very generic answer here.
Right.
And so I know people's situations, circumstances, cases are going to be, significantly different or
Mm-hmm.
varying.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this, generally speaking, I don't think college is a bad thing, despite
Mm-hmm.
being, someone who's pursuing entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the contingencies though that I'll have to put in place is college has to either be one, fully like paid for,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't get any student loans whatsoever,
Right.
whether that's paid for because of scholarship, paid for because you're fortunate enough to come from a family with a college fund,
Mm-hmm.
or paid for by a relative or grandparent who has offered to do so. So
Mm-hmm.
that's number one. And then number two is you want to go after, you want to study a career that has a proven track record of making money. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you see what I'm saying? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll sum it up. Anything within the science field, within business field.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what was I going to say? If you want to be a teacher,
Yeah.
you have to, regardless.
Right.
If you want to be in the medical field, you have to,
Mm-hmm.
regardless. The
Mm-hmm.
business field, you can get away with it,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it does look better because you're
Mm-hmm.
more professional that way. But yeah,
Yeah. So I like what you said that you just don't want to like just do so because some people will go to college and just study some random stuff
yeah,
as their major and then basically rack up all those loans and then not know what they're doing after they graduate. And
mhm,
I agree, that's where it can be problematic when you go to college and you don't have a plan or
mhm,
a real vision. Um, so yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately too. Like I actually want to enter into that space of where I can speak more into the lives of college students so
mhm,
that they will be able to actually choose something that will actually make sense once they graduate and
yep,
not be in that space of like, oh, I wasted 4 years of my life and now what? I studied this and now I'm working at Starbucks or something like, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
yeah, because once you rack up that debt,
Whew.
it really can mess with you. It really can for a long
It can,
time.
yeah. Pardon my interruption, but yeah, I completely agree. It can set you back years,
Right,
if not decades,
right,
unfortunately, if you're
right.
not careful.
Yeah.
I do want to mention this too, just in regards to the college topic.
Hmm.
So, if I could go back, I mean, and I studied business, so that's a little bit of context, but at that point, I kind of had a clear direction of what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
But if I could go back and I was to give advice to someone who is thinking about going to college right now, and
Hmm.
let's just say they're more of an art person, whether it's music, whether it's painting, all these things, I'll say this. I'm a big believer in don't study in college what you're actually passionate about.
Hmm.
I think you should study something that is a little bit more practical, you know. And so I'll kind of
Interesting.
go into a little bit of this.
Yeah.
So if you have an interest in music, I would encourage you to look into one of the other fields that have a proven track record of making you money post college,
Hmm.
especially if you are someone who wants to live a certain life,
Hmm.
um, or has debt.
Hmm.
Um, so I would look into like the fields that I mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
but you can take courses,
Hmm.
elective courses in the industry that you're passionate about.
Hmm.
That way you have the pressure removed from you of trying to find a job that your degree fits
Hmm.
with post college.
Right, right.
Um, and I'm speaking from experience. I have a lot of friends who studied, um, you know, music theory or even psychology.
Mhm,
Um, and for those of you who don't know, psychology is a good field, but it's
mhm,
very overcrowded.
mm,
So it's not an easy field to penetrate into the market of, you know.
right, right,
Um, so my point is you can still study those topics. Like for instance, I'm big into philosophy,
right,
you know.
right,
Um, and there's plenty of philosophy classes, but becoming a philosophy major,
right,
no disrespect. Like again, I love philosophy. I think I'm a big on wisdom and knowledge, but
Mhm.
you're not going to make a career off of that, unfortunately. Most people,
Right.
very small
Most,
percentage, right?
right.
So study something practical, so that way you can easily accumulate a job. You
Mhm.
know, when you get the job, set aside time, and this is the hard part that a lot of people lack, but set aside time to also learn in college. Take courses, elective courses
Mhm.
around, if possible, that subject. Or if you can't do that, find another outlet to
Yeah.
learn from.
Yeah.
YouTube, Google,
Yeah.
all that.
Wow. Wow. Hey, believe it or not, that's the first time I ever heard that take. Like I don't think I've ever had someone see it that way. Because I've always been like thinking about like, okay, study what you're passionate about so that when you graduate, like I've been seeing it the other way around, like don't
Mm-hmm.
graduate and like work a job that you're gonna hate. Like you want to work a job that is related to something that you're passionate about. But I really, really, really like that take. And I'm actually going to sit on that for a little bit more. That's just on my own later. I'm going to
Yeah,
like really go into that train of thought that you just started.
I love it. I love it.
But okay, now let's start diving deeper now into entrepreneurship.
That's good.
How would you define the word entrepreneur?
Yeah, I like to think about it in this simple sentence
Hmm.
or explanation. Entrepreneur is someone who solves problems that need fixing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Simple as that. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they're providing a solution to a
Mhm.
problem that no one else is offering the solution to. You know.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So,
Okay. I like that definition. And that's actually a good definition because a lot of times people who want to be entrepreneurs, like they haven't really thought about the problem that they're trying to solve.
yep.
And they're just going with the flow, essentially trying to just start whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, even if maybe even if it's something that they're passionate about, but it's like they're not actually solving a problem,
Mm-hmm.
so that I know that's important, and you'll probably touch on this a little bit more later.
Mm-hmm.
But why do you choose to become an entrepreneur every day? And the way I worded this question is significant. I said, why do you choose? I didn't say, why did you choose to become an entrepreneur? Why do you choose to become an entrepreneur every day? So you personally.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I really appreciate the mindfulness in the selective wording.
Yeah.
I'm big on language. So,
Yeah.
you know, the way I see it is, it's always been how my brain has worked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from a young age, my brain was always a very creative thinker.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, in terms of like, I will see a problem and I'll say, what's the quickest,
Mm-hmm.
most efficient, but also best way to solve this problem?
Yeah.
You know, I'm a very numbers, mathematical, logical, rational kind of a thinker.
Mm-hmm.
And so, going back to your question, uh, for me, what makes me choose entrepreneurship every day is I'm always finding new challenges, new problems to solve, and it's constantly like refining me and allowing me to become a bigger and better person.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. That's good. It gives you that opportunity to essentially do something that you are wired to do. Like, what better space to solve problems and challenges every day than by
Mhm.
chasing that field? You know what I mean? So that's good. Okay, now let's maybe go into something that might be a little bit difficult.
Mhm.
Maybe not with very positive feelings, but I think it's important for us to hear this. Tell me about maybe one or two of your failed business ideas as an
Oh,
entrepreneur. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love talking about failures. And
Yeah.
just a little context. I think if you want to be an entrepreneur, if
Mhm.
anyone here is listening to this and they've been thinking on it, you
Yeah.
have to learn to love and embrace failure.
Right.
Failure is actually becomes your best friend.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do a whole TED talk on that. So to answer your question, number one, I wanted to start right before I came to college. I was actually working on a business plan on a specific company. It was called, actually, I won't say the name of it. just in case I ever do use it down the road.
Right.
But I wanted to start a high fashion luxury belt brand.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I wanted to just focus on the belt, provide
Mhm.
a high fashion luxury belt.
Mhm.
And again, remember, I grew up in South Florida, so
Mhm.
I'm very familiar with Louis, with Gucci, with Versace, with Salvatore Ferragamo, with Balenciaga, all these different brands.
Yeah.
And everyone in my neighborhood would always either wear fake luxury belts
Yeah.
or real luxury belts, but
Right.
so it's a thing here, right?
Mhm.
So I wanted to create my own brand. I still wanted to be in the high fashion realm. I thought it
Mhm.
was a good space to emerge into.
Right.
Unfortunately, um, I had spoken with, growing up in South Florida, I had the opportunity to network with
Mhm.
people in this industry. It's a,
Yeah.
Miami area is filled with high fashion
Mhm.
folk. So when I was discussing with someone, they kept telling me it was a bad idea. So
Right.
I poured all this money into getting designs and everything made, and let's
Wow.
just say all that money went down the drain, right? Um, so that's number one. That's one of my businesses that completely failed,
Right.
and kind of put me in the gutter for a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, the the other business that I had that failed, it was actually a clothing brand that I had launched when I was in high school.
Mhm.
It was called Imperial Wear. Uh,
Mhm.
and at the time that was actually available on Instagram, the name.
Yeah.
Um, and I had partnered with a friend of mine after he actually reached out to me to partner with me. So
Mhm.
I came up with these unique designs that would match with Air Jordan drops. You
Hmm.
know, so I was a big sneakerhead in high school, and I knew that there was like only one other company I knew at the time that made shirts that had the perfect color matching with the
Mhm.
sneakers.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Air Jordan 7s, Air Jordan 1s,
Mhm.
Bred 11s, all these things. So I was creating a company at that time around that, and
Mhm.
my designs weren't that good.
Yeah.
You know, I've
Yeah.
always been a creative person, but my designs weren't that good
Mhm.
uh, because I'm not that creative.
Mhm.
Like I have good ideas, but that's about it. So a
Mhm.
buddy of mine reached out. I said, "I love the company. I love your idea." And long story short, he ended up actually kind of stealing everything from me, all my ideas, and doing it himself. And wasn't really a friend at the end of the day. And
Yeah. Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
so I that was like my one of my first businesses actually.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. I mean, I like
I
what
have
you,
many more, but
I know. That's the thing though. Like if you're trying to become, if you're an entrepreneur, like you're gonna have like so many more failures than success. And I like what you said, for those who are in this field, that we need to embrace failure because a lot of times that's literally what crushes people. Like when what they're
yep,
doing does not work out and they
yep,
just fold completely or they just give up. So it's important for us to know that almost every successful businessman or entrepreneur probably has way more failure stories if you ask them, than that one success story that you know of. So that's pretty good right there. Okay, what about actually I think I already kind of know this one. I was going to say, what about your successful business ideas? And I know a venture, which is probably one that you've touched on here,
mhm.
would be,
I'll touch on
yeah.
another one for
You
you if
have
you want.
another one? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Can you
Go
ask the
ahead.
question again? I did interrupt you.
Yeah, so tell us about a successful or even like a developing business idea that you have right now. So that, just in
Yeah.
juxtaposition to the failed ones.
Yeah. No, that's a great question.
Yeah,
So, you're talking about currently, right? Not
yeah,
like
currently.
previous successful. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
currently.
Great. So I'm not going to speak about a venture, even
Hmm.
though obviously that's like the main business I promote and push right now because
Yeah,
it's something that is near and dear to my heart. But
yeah.
I'm actually working on my second business right now.
Hmm.
It's still very early stages, but it has
Right.
huge potential. I've ran the business plan by others, other people within my network within the same
Hmm.
industry, and
Hmm.
it's called Cosmo Collective.
Right.
Cosmo Collective is essentially a content creation studio, or agency, for lack of a better phrase. And we're essentially offering specific or specialized content creation to bigger brands. So think digital content, digital
Mhm.
marketing,
Yeah.
kind of along those lines. And I
Yeah.
know marketing is a broad term, but
Right.
essentially, for those of you who don't know, I got my start on social media as being this travel photographer and adventure photographer and
Right.
videographer. And since then I've kind of stepped away from doing that for a career and instead do it more as a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a huge background in sales,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've done sales in the tech industry. I've done sales for entrepreneurship ventures of my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I've launched sales teams for brand new companies. I've
Mm-hmm.
had unique opportunities to learn what it takes from a very high scale professional level of
Mm-hmm.
sales.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, I'm building out. I'm this chief marketing officer of this company. I
Mm-hmm.
partnered with a friend of mine who has all the connections with all the content creators,
Mm-hmm.
and we're putting together a team that we're going to be pitching to brands and offering them that service.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good. We live in the social media world, and
Yes.
basically all the big brands, they know they have to up their social media game. And so that's something that I definitely think is a need.
Yep.
So yeah, I hope I'm waiting to be here to see, when it really does get up there to that big scale that you envision it. I can see it,
Yes.
but like you said, you just have to be able to fight through the obstacles that are bound to come.
Yes.
That they're
Yes.
bound to come, and like just keep pushing through it. So speaking of that, uh,
Mhm.
I discovered through a little bit of research that
Yep.
90% of startups do fail,
Yes.
right? According to the stats. Um, and I know your company right now is a startup, and I hope
Yep.
that yours will be part of the other 10%.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I'm believing in. But how can more entrepreneurs increase their chance of success?
Yep.
Are there any like specific keys that you can think of that can help you increase your chances of success as a startup?
Yeah. Yes. There's absolutely ideas and ways and whatnot. So I think this is tough. I
Yeah,
don't. I so I'm speaking to a very specific type of person right now.
right.
I'm speaking to someone who's not just an entrepreneur, but they aren't an overthinker.
Hmm.
If you're an
Hmm.
overthinker,
Hmm.
which context, I'm an overthinker, but I've
Hmm.
mastered, I've overcome my overthinking. But if you're
Right.
not an overthinker, this is my advice to you:
Right.
do more research,
Hmm.
speak to others in this industry you're looking to get into,
Hmm.
uh, check out competitive companies, businesses, brands, products.
Hmm. Yeah.
Find out what problem your specific product is solving
Hmm.
before you even create the product or like
Right.
actually get the tangible product made. Um, and the last tip I'll give is reverse engineer.
Hmm.
Reverse engineer. So a lot of people are familiar with Steve Jobs. He
Hmm.
created Apple. He
Hmm.
one time gave a speech, I think it was at Stanford or some university, and he said the way forward is to look backwards and connect the dots backwards. He's
Hmm.
talking about reverse engineering. For
Hmm.
instance, I said, figure out what problem those businesses are solving
Hmm.
and try to expand on that. When
Hmm.
you try, a lot of people, they want to create a business,
Hmm.
and essentially what they're doing is, oh, I like, for instance, oh, I want to create a clothing brand, and I want to make cool designs.
Hmm.
That is an amazing thing, but
Hmm.
it's not solving any problems for someone.
Right.
Now, if
Right.
you're saying, hey, I've noticed that a lot of these brands, a lot of streetwear brands are making cheap quality clothes and then are charging you 120 plus dollars per clothing, per shirt, let's say.
Hmm.
Um, you can say, I noticed, the problem you could be solving is I'm bringing high quality clothes
Hmm.
for, uh, uh, you know, let's just say 20, 30% less of the cost
Hmm.
with just as good, if not better designs,
Hmm.
you know, like
Hmm.
that's solving a problem.
Right.
And I'm not going to tell you how to sell that per se, but I'm just saying, you got
Right.
to look for
Right.
problems. You got to solve
Right.
it. If
Right.
you're an overthinker now, and I want to address the overthinkers.
Yeah.
You need to just do it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and not only do you need to just do it, you need to come up with a very simple plan,
Hmm.
not an over complex plan, a simple plan, and
Hmm.
do things one step at a time.
Right. Right.
Don't try and plan 50, 78, 5 years down the road. Just think about what can I do in the next 6 to 12 months and
Hmm.
just do that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And also the other advice kind of applies here and there with them too. But
Right.
remember, if it's going to cause you to overthink, don't
Yeah.
do it.
That's very, very good right there. Because I was just, once you said that, I started to think about, okay, we're supposed to reverse engineer,
Mhm.
and do all this research and dive into the space, speak to people who are there, do all that. But
Oh, and Caleb, sorry, pardon
yes,
me,
oh,
real
no,
quick.
no, go ahead.
One last thing that I
Yes.
will also mention too.
Yeah.
If you're going to start a business,
Hmm.
you have to have a plan.
Right.
I don't know if it's Benjamin Franklin or if it's just an anonymous quote, but I'm a big believer in this quote here. It says, uh, "If you fail to plan, you plan to fail." Right? And I
Yeah.
don't mean the good failure that I mentioned before. I mean
Right.
like
It's
if you don't
over.
know what direction you're moving towards,
Right.
you're going nowhere. You
Right.
know.
Right.
And then the last one is don't start a business with debt.
Hmm.
When I say debt, I'm not talking about a business loan.
Hmm.
That's a little bit different because if you get a business loan, that means you have a very clear and concise plan.
Hmm.
They won't give you it otherwise. Trust me.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and then, but if you're starting your own business, don't do what a lot of people do and max out 2 credit cards
It's
for
hard.
$20,000+
Yeah.
and all these things. That's why a lot of people fail too.
Right. 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 That's good. That's good. Yeah. I could be an overthinker too. So it's like sometimes the way overthinkers uh try to battle the too much detail part of being an entrepreneur, which is like where you do your research, you speak to all these people, like they're like, oh, that if I try to do all that, I might overthink it. So they just get started. But then they just get started without a plan, and then it comes crashing down.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've repeated that cycle quite a few times. I start
Yeah.
without a plan because I'm like, you know what, Nike, just do it, right? Like just do it, and then I just get started. I'm like, I have the idea of what I want to do. Let's just do,
Yeah.
and we'll see how it goes. And then it doesn't work out because I didn't have a plan. So it's this fine line that you have to walk as an entrepreneur, where it's like
Mhm.
you do the market research, you create your plan, but you don't um, cripple yourself and get paralyzed in analysis paralysis either.
Mhm. Mhm.
So very, very good, very, very good stuff. And I hope that our audience are gaining that motivation and inspiration. Like if you have an idea, set a time to do your research, get it done. And I think having a timeline is actually kind of helpful
Yes.
too. Set a timeline. If it's like, okay, I'm going to do my market research for a month or whatever it is, do it. Then in the following month, your next plan is to get something started, right? So it's like you're not like just staying there, like overthinking stuff for a long time. So yeah, hopefully that gives someone some insight if you find yourself in this space as well. um I know we are running out of time here, man. Like, dang, I had some more questions that I wanted to ask you, so maybe we might have to have a part two someday. We might have to have this part two here, but maybe I can just start closing us out here, because I always like to respect our audience's time, and also you, my guest. I want to respect your time. I like to keep this like just at an hour mark, if possible. But what's one advice that you can give to aspiring entrepreneurs today? Just as like a summary, uh, what's one advice you can give someone to walk away with right here?
Yeah. That's a really good question. So one piece of advice that I would give to an entrepreneur today is make sure you're maximizing value for people
Mm-hmm.
in every conversation you have, in every relationship you build, in every idea you come up with, in every business you start or pursue. You want to make sure you're maximizing value. So learn all you can about maximizing value, learn about copywriting,
Mm-hmm.
educate yourself on sales, and become in love with the process, and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the process. Yeah.
So maximize value. You're gaining all these skills so that you can maximize value and then enjoy the
Mhm.
process. Before I let you go, like what
Mhm.
if someone doesn't know what you mean by maximizing value? You know,
Right.
how would you break that down for them?
Right. So I'm going to give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, let's just say you go to a restaurant once a week,
Mm-hmm.
or let's just say you even work at a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
right? Either or. And let's just say this restaurant is a little bit, you kind of go to it more because it makes you feel a little bit more successful. It's a little bit higher cost restaurant, or you work there because they pay you good tips typically, and
Mm-hmm.
there's very successful people there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, start a conversation with someone if possible. You know, just introduce yourself is great if you see, especially if you see someone regularly there,
Mm-hmm.
and ask them a little bit about themselves, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so far, I'm not talking about the value part. Don't worry.
Right, right.
Uh, Eventually, you can kind of have by having a conversation with someone, you start to realize that people a lot of times will mention their successes, yeah, but they'll also mention stuff that they're having difficulty with.
Mm-hmm.
When someone's having difficulty with someone, um, oftentimes if you have experience within that field, you can add value, right? Value is this crazy unique word that we use, and
Mm-hmm.
it essentially means like um, bringing something to the table,
Right,
right?
right, right.
Again, they have a problem. Your value is you're offering a solution.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I once heard about a guy, he's not very technical at all,
Mm-hmm.
right? A very successful businessman. I'm
Mm-hmm.
surprised he has a website and has made it this far, but not very technical at all. He's been hiring people over the years for like um, what do you call it? Web design, web development, all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff, managing that stuff for him. But he keeps like running into not reliable people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a web developer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any experience in this field, but I'm constantly meeting different people from different industries.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was, as I'm meeting this gentleman, I'm speaking with him and I'm listening to him. It's like, oh man, it's like, quick question for you. Would it be okay if I connect you with someone that I know and trust, who I
Mm-hmm.
have a long-standing relationship with, that is
Mm-hmm.
a web developer?
Mm-hmm.
You can have your interview with him. No hard feelings if you decide it's not a good fit for you, but I
Mm-hmm.
at least want to connect you too, since I know he does really good work.
Mm-hmm.
The guy changed his whole demeanor immediately when I said that. He went from, oh, it's just this younger kid talking to me, consuming a little bit of my time, but also just listening to my problems, to, oh, this gentleman actually isn't trying to make money off of me.
Right,
He isn't just wasting my time.
right.
He isn't just trying to get something out of me. Instead, he's offering something. So
Yeah.
I'm maximizing value in that relational. This might sound bad, but relational transaction that's happening at that moment.
Right, right.
So that's one area. The other area is whenever you're starting a business, whenever you're offering a product, you want to maximize the amount of value a customer receives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If someone is buying, let's just say, an ebook from
Mm-hmm.
you, Caleb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, them buying an ebook for $9.99, it's great and all,
Mm-hmm.
but how could you add value, or how could you maximize the value that they're getting so that way they feel like, oh, I'm getting way more than the $10 that I'm paying? You
Yeah.
might say, with the purchase of this ebook, I'm actually going to give you a free beginner course on how to start a podcast,
Hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah, yeah.
And then after you offer that beginner course, you have the option of, as they're going through the process, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to say, oh, not only how to start a podcast, but for just an additional $4.99, I'll
Mm-hmm.
give you the second course that that comes after that, how to
Mm-hmm.
start a podcast, is
Mm-hmm.
how to network with individuals to get them on your podcast.
Hmm.
I'm just making this up from
No,
what
that's
I know you
I'm
do.
sure I'm following, man. That's good stuff.
So
That,
now
that
you're maximizing value, and
yeah.
and people actually feel like, wow, this is such a great deal.
Right, right,
You're
right,
not actually offering any discount, so you're not selling yourself short,
right,
you know, but you're
right.
maximizing value from their standpoint, and you're
Mhm.
maximizing value from your standpoint. Because now
Wow.
you're getting an extra $5 potentially,
Mm-hmm.
most likely
Right.
than you would have gotten before.
Hmm.
Now you're more likely to sell people on that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. I like that a lot. And I like that you had two aspects of it where you're actually like selling something and when you're literally just offering value for free, which
Mhm.
then gives you more things later on.
it,
Um,
it builds it builds rapport, right?
right, right,
And
right.
rapport is this, for those of you who don't understand the word rapport.
Mhm.
Rapport basically means you build trust with
Right,
someone.
right, right. And that's really what it's about. If you're an entrepreneur, once you have trust with when people trust you, the money starts
And
to come in. Yeah, the
yes,
money
yes,
starts
yes.
to come in. That it really does. It really does. Man, this is good. So, if you're out there, an entrepreneur, I know there are so many of us millennials that are entrepreneurs. So many of us. I feel like this is the secret, man. You said it right here. Like you have to like posture yourself in the way that you're constantly looking to add value to someone's life, whatever that looks like. And it's not just about you. It's about the other person, the customer or client or whatever it is. How are you adding value to their life? Because I feel like when you do that right, everything else flows naturally, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know we're running a little bit short on time here,
Right.
but
Right.
um, yeah. So you'd be surprised, uh, when you add value to people's life,
Mm-hmm.
you're the first person that'll usually come to their mind whenever someone speaks of anything
Mm-hmm.
related to you, right? So if I'm introducing myself to this guy as, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I actually run a small clothing brand that is currently scaling to a
Mm-hmm.
bigger clothing brand.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a venture.
Mm-hmm.
We donate 10% back. And next time someone brings up, man, I'm looking for some new outdoor activewear apparel,
Mm-hmm.
the first person he's gonna, or just activewear, first person he's gonna think of is not some brand that he has no relationship with the owner or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. He's gonna think me. He's gonna be like, oh,
Right.
hey, actually, my guy Joe, he
Yeah.
has this brand.
Right.
So
Right.
he's gonna return the favor, and even if he doesn't, I
Mm-hmm.
still have that relationship built with him. So
Mm-hmm.
there's value in that for me,
Right.
you
Right.
know. So
Right.
it's understanding, always give more than
Mm-hmm.
you take, but still make sure that you are also, and I don't, the word take has a stigma behind it, but it's not
Right.
always a bad thing.
Right.
Also make sure you're never forgetting to take two, you know?
Right. Right. I totally understand. Man, thank you so much for your time. If people want to find you on social
Yeah.
media, where can they find you? And I'll put it on the screen. Can you tell the audience where they can find you?
Yeah. So if you want to follow me directly, my Instagram account, personal one, is Adventure with Joe, and that's ADVENTURE with Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, would really appreciate if you also gave my clothing brand a follow. It's Adventure Co. So UHVENTURECO. Feel free to check out our brand.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, aside from that, yeah, that's the best place to reach me.
Yeah, best way to find you. And from there, I mean, you can take them on all kinds of journey from there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and if it's your first time watching this again and you're not following me on social media yet, first thing to do, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's where all
yes.
my videos are. Okay, it's Caleb the Teacher. As you can see, that's my passion. I want to bring knowledge, insights to help people, right? So Caleb the Teacher, subscribe. And also you can find me on Instagram, Caleb the Teacher. You can find me on Twitter, Caleb the Teacher. On
I love it.
TikTok, Caleb the Teacher. You'll find me anywhere. But I'm gonna put all the links in the description. Yeah, I can't wait to have you back again sometime in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the best, man, to your entrepreneurial adventures. Okay.
Thank you.
And, God bless. Thanks so much. All right.
God
Take
bless you
care.
as well.
All
All
right.
righty.